Bebop.
Welcome to Artist Bebop episode number 52. This is the weekly ramble where I take a timer, set it for 22 minutes, and ramble about art. So here we are. This episode's different because I've decided to utilize my StreamYard and live stream. So that's exciting. I guess I'm just really curious about this. And I thought, what's the harm? So, no, I thought it was funny because I was playing with the settings and it there's a filter. So, yeah, I put it on and it looked very glam. I took it off because I'm going to keep it raw. But yeah, exciting. So I got to get my mind off of that and talk about art, right? Yeah, well, this week, let's see. Last week I talked about my taxes. That was exciting. But I don't know. That was exciting because, like I said, I got to look at my art finances, and I was afraid I was doing a bunch of stuff wrong, but it just turns out, I had some hiccups last year, and it's fine. I'm like all the business stuff I'm doing is good, which is kind of a shock. But I have never fancied myself. It's funny because I probably reference Gary Vee a lot, but I don't want to say Gary Vee every other sentence. But he is, if you don't know, one of the things he says is he is a purebred entrepreneur, something like that. And uh, I think I'm the opposite of that. And I've stopped saying it, but I used to say I'm just a dumb artist a lot. And I've worked on things like that. I've worked on being kinder to myself. And I don't know, doing the whole financial thing last week, I realized that, I am not a purebred entrepreneur, but I've learned and I'm learning and I'm getting better. And that's all anything is, really. It's like when somebody tells me they don't know anything about art, they don't know how to do art. It's practice. What you're really saying is you have not given yourself a chance to even try, which is weird. Now, I've rambled about that plenty, but no, it was good. So you know, seeing that as a victory, kind of. Yeah, yeah, it's a victory. Yeah, and so this week I sat there and I thought about that, and I thought about the past year, really the past few years, how I've really busted my hump to get all of the things I want done. As far as marketing, the studio I've hit so hard. I've created a lot of work, and it's all paid off. And so, yeah, I guess another thing I was thinking about was the whole idea of work-life balance. And this will be the Gary Vee episode, I guess. But I saw him say once that work-life balance doesn't exist. We make choices, and they're really not right or wrong. And I guess I find myself making a lot of choices. And I thought about all of that energy and all the time I've put into projects. And it's not like I neglect my kids at all. I actually spend a lot of time with them. And it's weird because despite that, I still feel like it's not enough. And it's not something I beat myself up over. I was glad I heard that piece of advice that work life balance doesn't exist. There isn't a right or wrong to that. But that being said, I realized that a lot of the work I've done is so that do get to be around them. So I do get to soak in who they are as these little, lovable, beautiful people, and how, in addition to that, I want to help mold them and push them along as much as I can so that they can grow and find their happiness. And so I did a lot of, I worked in a studio a lot, but I also took a lot of time to do cool things with them because our schedule has shifted. So it left us some days where we could just do things like, and it wasn't freezing. So we went outdoors, got sun, went to a park, had a picnic. It was cool. Ran. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, that was, I don't know. I guess this week I did a lot of my usual, but I also took time to breathe, which, and just soak in the gratitude of the hard work that I put in. Not that I'm going to get lazy, but it's rewarding to discover something like that. Yeah, I got, and I was just working on them, but I got the greatest. I always ask for suggestions at the end of my videos when I do when I show what I'm doing in the studio on my dailies sometimes. And the greatest suggestion was, well, I'd done one of Mike Bolton from Office Space, and then I'll put it when I do the time lapse. I'll put the way the guy wrote it, but it was kind of mimicking Lumbergh's voice from that movie, and saying I should do a 1972 tops in action Mike Bolton against the fax machine. And that is one of the funniest suggestions I've ever gotten. And so that's what I spent a lot of my studio time. Well, no, I varied it, but yeah, I kept going back to it. I couldn't help it. I'm almost finished, but I was transfixed. And not that I'd forgotten about that scene, but I had not thought about it in a long time because I remember just loving it. I remember big fan of the Ghetto Boys, but uh, it was good stuff. But yeah, I've got a couple of funny. I seem, I don't know. Whatever you put out there, it kind of comes back to you. So I'm getting a lot of commissions that are humorous lately, and one of them is Roy Munson from Kingpin, Woody Harrelson. So he's on a big league. I keep looking over there, like I should have kept him close. I could have showed it as visuals, but yeah. Now also, check out my friend, the musical hippie. It's on YouTube, on Instagram. I think it's the underscore musical underscore hippie. But so I did an homage to him a while. So he's a really cool guy, and I might have him podcast with me soon, which is exciting. And so he has this blog, and for years, one of my paintings would pop up, and he put these kind words up, and it's so strange because the hardest part of art is putting it out there. As an artist, I feel so vulnerable, and it's scary, and so to have, like, that random act of just kindness, I don't think, at least for me, he knows what that means. Because I mean, there have been some glum days where tag me and I see the write-up, and it just turns that day around, and so I made a time-lapse painting, and I sent it to him, and he opened it up on his YouTube, and again, like, just such a cool guy. So, I'm looking forward to talking with him, and his I know his writing, and, but I know he's got other stuff going on, so I wanna learn more. It'll be cool. Very excited. I just did one with my friend Ashley, who's in Pennsylvania, so I'll put that up soon. I need to figure out my internet connection here because she was glitching on that a lot, but we got the audio, so that's nice. I need a water break. I should've live water drinking. Yeah, yeah. You know, it was funny, so I was watching it was another podcast, and they were talking about how, you think of a podcast, it's just like with documentary. When I first heard the word documentary, you think of just a capture, a snapshot of what's really going on. But when you really look at documentary, it's not that. It's organized and edited, and the narrative is crafted, and there totally is bias just by the nature of how it is composed. I think there's no way around it. Thinking with my camera brain, even where you decide to put those 4 corners, you know, into the old even where you decide to do that, you're choosing what you omit, which is a fascinating concept in art. I'll never forget going to portfolio review back with my photography days, this Mayan work. It was one of the most emotional moments in my career because there was, I don't know how many gallery reps and stuff, but you had so many meetings a day, and this would go 2 days where you show them your portfolio. Who knows why a lot of them show up? They, I guess, have different reasons, but, some of them, they're looking for people that fit in their gallery. If you're not that, you're 15 minutes, just kinda weird. you know, and that happened most a lot of that portfolio review. In fact, when I think about it, there was only 2 that I can remember that struck that stayed in my memory. The main one was a guy from, this was in Houston, but he was from a museum up in Fort Worth, at the Amon Carter Museum, and so, I had gone through the rhythms of these. It was cool, it was a good experience, but, we start the timer. He said, "I'm just going to look, and I'm not gonna say anything, and you just give me a moment. I'm just going to look." And I think, maybe there was 10 images that I had made, and so he goes through them. And I'm sitting there, it's like a table. We're sitting across from each other, and I'm watching him, and I'm watching his eyes. Each picture, just his eyes are very into this, like, each image, and it was weird. I'm even emotional talking about it, but I start kinda, like, welling up, and, and then he finishes, and yeah, I'm just kinda, and then it was some of the most beautiful critique I've ever received. And one of them, the reason I thought about this is I'm sitting there doing the framing thing, in photography, even in painting, any type of composition, you're choosing the 4 corners. And I remember him looking at some of my images. He said, "Don't be," because I was using a lot of layers. I was doing photography, but that's where the painter was, I think, just trying to break out of me because I was working, I had started in the darkroom, and then we got to digital, and I started to make these pictures where I was layering things. And that was painting. That was composition. It was years of, working the camera, but it was years of walking around museums, studying everything. And so he said, "These layers, don't be afraid to cover things up." He covered up like half an eye on a piece. And he went on, if you've ever heard me talk about what I do in terms of archaeology, that critique is a lot of where that came from, was because he said, "These layers, this is archaeology that you're making. So don't be afraid to omit something." And yeah, it starts to get chills, like, thinking about that. That's weird, I guess. But it's not, it's very, stuff is so personal, you know? Even, I mean, I remember when I first started doing time lapses, I would sit there and freak out, like people were watching a misstep, and that's kinda gone at this point. I'm not afraid of that anymore. It's weird saying that out loud, but yeah, I know. It's just, I play it as it goes, and like anything, yeah, I don't know. It makes me think of something else. I'm trying to make the connection so that I can articulate it, but I guess I was thinking about artists visual artists like me in the past, and even growing up, even friends or artists, mm, trying to give advice sometimes. And like, you should only show your good stuff. You're good, good. And here's what I come to realize. We'll reference Gary Vee again. I won't do this all the time because it's just weird. But I love the dude. But yeah, but so I think of his method for marketing, and he says it to a lot of musicians. It's like you're sitting there wanting to got the perfect song. He's like, spit them out, put them out. A bunch of them might be garbage, but put them out there, put them out there. And I've taken that approach with art big time because honestly, you'll hear a lot of artists say this, that a piece. Sometimes I personally, I don't know, I don't think it's my best sells right away. It resonates with somebody for some reason on some level, even though I might just be okay with it. I mean, I love everything I put out. You got the best of me at that moment. And that was something luckily I understood very early on. And I learned it more as I transitioned into paint and photography. Our teacher was so strict and kind of mean. That was good in a sense, except that a lot of artists it that sucked. But for me, it was good. It was the good kick in the butt that I needed. All right, post ramble. I don't know how this will work. I'm gonna poke around here 'cause I don't know. I thought maybe, yeah. Okay, I won't articulate that. I will. I guess I can outro. I don't know. Thanks for tuning in. I'm gonna outro and then I'm gonna stay on fidgeting with this. So if you're watching live, yeah, you might see that. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time.
Bebop.